Hello, everybody. Thanks to Creative Time for having us here. We are two-thirds of the Propeller Group, an art collaborative that sometimes pretends to be an advertising agency in order to explore the production of public image and mass media. Issues of nationalism are at the core of some of our long-running projects. These issues are used to explore nation unbranding strategies.
But before we start talking about nation unbranding and what that means and why we came to think about nation unbranding, let us talk a little bit about the idea of the nation brand and how that idea is being understood and applied by different nations and their affiliated ad firms across the world. Here is a video that kind of summarizes things in a very kind of simple way.
Introducing Brand Australia, which raises an immediate question. Is a country actually a brand? The short answer is yes, albeit a very complex one. A country's brand is based on reputation, history, geography, and personality. These reputations are developed over centuries and can be difficult to change. Our brand is not how we see ourselves, but how the rest of the world sees Australia. So, what do they really think about us?
Right, so as the video states in such a profound way, nation branding is not how we see ourselves, but how the rest of the world sees us. We wonder if those two perspectives can have an effect on one another, and if they could possibly be inverted or intermixed. But that's part of a larger conversation. Let's get to the definition of what nation branding is. By definition, nation branding aims to measure, build, and manage the reputation of countries. The branding and image of a nation state and the successful transference of this image to its exports is just as important as what they actually produce and sell.
Simon Anholt coined the term nation brand over 15 years ago, and since then both advertising agencies and nations have treated countries just like any other product. And in those last 15 years, Mr. Anholt has sort of been involved in a personal unbranding of sorts by having to explain to people what he did not mean by coining that term. There's a great book, Places, where there's a quote I'd like to read from Mr. Anholt. National reputation cannot be constructed, it can only be earned. And imagining that such a deeply rooted phenomenon can be shifted by so weak an instrument as marketing communications is an extravagant delusion.
But contrary to what Mr. Anholt is saying, these big advertising agencies are still being hired by different nations and countries around the world to produce and create these multi-million-dollar communication campaigns to brand and rebrand countries.
So what do these multi-billion-dollar, million-dollar campaigns look like to brand nations? This is an excerpt of a current campaign by Saatchi & Saatchi, a global advertising agency, for Australia.
Right, so after looking at several of these nation rebranding case studies, we started to think about Vietnam in the context of a nation brand. Not only because we have personal ties to the country, but because conceptually we thought it had there was a lot of material to work with there and a lot of grounds to explore. Vietnam has become one of the most mediatized national identities since in recent history, probably due to the consecutive wars that happened in the latter half of the 20th century and the media coverage that came out of those wars. It is a very kind of national identity kind of wrought with contradictions so an example of one of those contradictions is an index that actually Mr. Simon Anholt had created that measures exactly how much a country contributes to the planet and to humanity. This index is called the Good Country Index, and out of 125 countries that Mr. Anholt surveyed, Vietnam comes in at number 124, which means Vietnam is second to last, which means, according to the index, that Vietnam's contribution to the global whole scheme of things is very little. Bad nation branding. Oh, but Sweden comes in at 6, by the way.
But on the other hand, there's another index called the Happy Planet Index, which measures countries based on efficiency, life expectancy, and ecological footprint. And this has the completely opposite results, where Vietnam is second to the top.
Right, so these extremes, again, kind of reflect the schizophrenia in this national identity we call Vietnam. But do these indexes really reflect how the world sees Vietnam? How people outside of Vietnam imagine Vietnam to be when they conjure up this image of Vietnam?
Yeah, it's hard to measure that stuff.
And how do we measure that?
I think one of the most popular indexes today is Google. So when you search for Vietnam in Google, these are some of the results that you see.
Right, so as we were scouring the interwebs and going through layers of the internet and history, we refound a quote by George Orwell. He says, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." Now, if the past equates to history, can we manipulate that by interjecting into a present archive, a present dialogue?
So an amazing thing happened when Pussy Riot did their protest performance at the cathedral in Moscow a couple years ago. Before this event, when you searched Google for Putin, normal images of Putin showed up on Google. And amazingly, after the Pussy Riot event, when you searched for Putin, Pussy Riot came up. It was pretty remarkable. And so even to this day, I did a search for Putin, and I found an image of Putin with Pussy Riot drag makeup on. And so it's amazing because the Google archive is continuously in flux.
So if history is an archive in flux, we challenged ourselves to somehow create a schism in that archive by utilizing different strategies to unbrand this brand called Vietnam, to disassociate this national identity with what it came to stand for historically.
So the strategies applied to Vietnam the World Tour take from propaganda, marketing, graffiti, dance, the viral video phenomenon, to reassociate a historically colonized and mediatized national identity, Vietnam, into an entirely new mediatized history. Vietnam the World Tour collaborates with leading street dancers, graffitists, writers, designers, artists, musicians, thinkers, and brings them on a tour around the world. We create public interventions, performances, interactive events, workshops. We even give away T-shirts, tote bags, stickers, anything that we can do to penetrate the cultural and social media spheres, both physically and digitally.
And of course, all of this is accumulated and archived via photography and videos and distributed online. This next video that we're going to quickly show is an example of some of the videos that we've created as part of it on the World Tour. This video is a documentation of a public performance that resulted in a public mural in Singapore. Now, if any of you are familiar with the kind of laws regarding public artwork in Singapore, you'll appreciate what we've done here. It's a collaboration with El Mac, who paints these beautiful, photorealistic, large-scale murals. I'll just get to the video. We're running out of time, but check it out online.
So LMAC gets millions of hits. The bottom line, we need as many hits as possible to change this archive. I think we're running out of time. But I wanted to, before you guys go to lunch and go anywhere, we have some tote bags that we'd like to give you courtesy of LMAC and artist Shamsia Hassani from Kabul. She's a graffiti artist there. We also have some stickers, and we'd like to pass some out.
Join the movement. Thank you.
My takeaway from this is
Sorry.
rebranding works. That is, you can take any place and turn it around into a brand. And why is it working? What do you do? And at the point, it seemed like you were saying, well, rebranding doesn't work. And then suddenly I heard you shifting the discussion, saying, actually, it works, and we're trying to make it work.
Well, I think part of the debate that we have and the kind of during the research that we were doing in regards to Simon Anholt and the guy who coined the term nation branding was that this is what advertising agencies do. They'll take an idea and they'll just like blow it up, right? We grew up as graffiti artists and we hated advertising since we were like little kids. We just inherently hated it because it kind of colonized our space. But we recognize the power of these advertising companies. There is power there. And for them to take this idea completely away what Simon Anholt was trying to talk about and make it into something that's very big and influential now is what they do. It's the power. And it works.
Okay, good. Thank you very
right.
much.